arrivati ragazzi su un'altra nuova puntata del Calice Nero. Buonasera Adimer, ben arrivato, ben ritornato.
Buonasera maestro.
Allora, salutiamo Luther, Nicola, ciao Nicola, Howard, Sorensen, quindi veramente alla grande. Oggi Adimer ci divertiremo alla grande perché abbiamo Mike Browning che è sparito, che adesso sicuramente ritornerà perché lo stiamo per chiamare in diretta, ma sicuramente ritornerà perché ha avuto problemi via telefonica, quindi via connessione. Quindi aspettiamo un
Comunque Mike
attimino.
Browning, che
Vai.
ricordiamo un attimo qual è la storia. Lui è stato
Sì, vai.
uno dei membri fondatori per quanto riguarda i Morbid Angel
Yes, i primi demo.
nell'83. Esatto, nei primi 2 demo. Poi ha fondato nell'87, è stato uno dei cofondatori dei Nocturnus,
Sì,
una
lo
band
conosco.
technical death che
Yes.
poi si è sciolta, si è riformata, e degli
Si è
After
riunita.
Death, che è nata subito dopo i Nocturnus dei primi periodi. E lui, batterista, con un
Ok.
repertorio alle spalle veramente lungo ed
Importante,
eterno, mi viene da dire, perché comunque 40 anni di attività son tanti,
Importante.
son veramente,
Madonna.
veramente tanti. Quindi sì, in questa intervista parleremo alla fine della sua storia come come si dice? La storia di lui come batterista, come si è formato nel corso degli anni, sarà molto, molto divertente. So, since we have some foreigners following following this interview, I will just quickly tell again what I was just saying in Italian. So, during this interview with Mike, we'll be talking about his history as a musician, as a drummer, since he has been one of the founding members of Morbid Angel, and also right after Morbid Angel, he went into forming Nocturnus, which is considered as one of the first bands to also implement like science fictional kind of themes in their lyrics. And then he went also to form After Death, right after Nocturnus, and then it went like slightly back and forth between Nocturnus. And apart from this whole thing, we'll be talking about his overall experience during his 40 years long career as drummer, and his experience into death metal and technical death metal even. So if you have any questions, like, feel free to drop them in the comments, and we'll be making our best to see them all, telling them all to him so that he could reply to you. And as I guess you've already noticed, I'll be taking care of the translation. So we'll be mainly talking in Italian, but I will be translating the Italian questions in English, and I'll be also taking care of translating back Mike's replies to Italian. So don't get confused. It's something that we always do. Comunque sì, dicevo, siccome abbiamo
Sto cercando
un
di
po' di
risolvere
gente...
perché sono incontrato appunto. Facciamo cercando
Sì,
di risolvere
appunto stavo
questo è in
dicendo
prima
che
linea.
siccome abbiamo un po' di gente che sta seguendo dall'estero, anche vedendo i commenti che vengono dal profilo di
Yes.
Mike direttamente, gli ho
Molto bene.
rispiegato come funziona,
Bravo.
e ho ricordato a loro che e ricordo a tutti che possono lasciare le proprie domande nei commenti. Noi faremo di tutto per leggerle tutte, per
Ok.
rispondere, per dare quanto più tempo possibile a Mike per rispondere e darci il suo feedback su tutta quella che è stata la sua esperienza nel death metal in questi 40 anni di esperienza. E comunque volevo, visto che ci siamo, ricordare un attimo quelli che sono i
Allora,
concerti che sono a
dimmi.
venire per quanto riguarda maggio, in Italia, o almeno quelli che mi ricordo, quindi
Bravo, ok.
non me li ricordo tutti. Allora, 11 maggio Saura Legend Club di Milano, 13 maggio Shamash, sempre Legend Club di Milano. Poi ci saranno cos'era? I Boris il 30 di maggio, il 17 di maggio al Factory di Verona invece ci sono i Celeste,
Grandi.
quindi
I boy,
esserci.
grandi.
E cos'altro? 29 di maggio Ghost all'Ippodromo di Milano, volendo per chi è interessato anche al genere. Il 23 maggio ci sono i Polifia, sempre all'Alcatraz di Milano, quindi diciamo mese di maggio abbastanza pieno per quanto riguarda concerti qua in Italia, e questi sono solo quelli principali per quanto riguardano il metal. Comunque ci sarà
Sì, c'è un bel po' di roba, diciamo.
sì, comunque tutta roba
Sì, c'è un
sull'underground
po' di roba.
andante.
Allora. Allora.
Ci sarà da divertirsi anche
Niente
qua,
ragazzi,
comunque.
mandate l'email adesso. Sì, mandate l'email in questo preciso momento all'email appunto di Mike via Messenger in contemporanea, e stiamo cercando di risolvere questo problema perché il link di StreamYard non funziona, quindi stiamo cercando di vedere un attimino di risolvere il problema quanto prima. Ciao Peter.
Okay, so we are having a little bit of difficulties because the StreamYard links that we gave Mike seemingly don't work. So we're trying to figure out a way to make it work back again. And in the meantime, we can try and talk something. So if you want to ask any questions about any topic, feel free to drop a question and we'll try and give our personal replies to that. Allora, ho appena detto che appunto nel mentre che cerchiamo di risolvere la questione, se ci dovesse essere qualcuno che ha domande che vuole farci senza limiti di come si dice, di argomenti, potete farle, quindi cercheremo di dare la nostra personale opinione anche su quello che verrà fuori. E anche il maestro si è buggato, quindi sono rimasto da solo.
Madonna, cioè no, oggi non funziona, cioè è veramente incredibile. Mi sente? Mi senti?
Sì, io ti sento.
No. Allora. Ok, tutto a posto quindi per me?
Allora, sì, tutto a posto per te. Comunque stavo vedendo un attimo i commenti.
No, buggato, mi sono buggato per quello.
Tranquillo. Buonasera Francesca, Nocturno saranno tanta roba? Sì, decisamente. Cioè, allora, per quello che li conosco io, perché comunque sono relativamente nuovo per quanto riguarda il death metal, nel senso che non lo ascolto chissà quanto e mi mangerei le mani. E sì, per quanto riguarda quello che hanno fatto uscire da Decay a The Teral Tomb, per quando erano Nocturnus, quindi non ancora Nocturnus AD, sì,
Madonna,
veramente tanta roba. Diciamo che comunque quell'epoca là, tra loro, anche ci metto in mezzo i Death, comunque si è creato quel movimento Esatto, quell'inizio di Technical Death che secondo me ha portato le basi per molto di quello che c'è comunque adesso. Vedi anche gruppi tipo gli Artspire che ci sono adesso, comunque tantissimi gruppi Death sono pionieri, diciamolo. So I was saying that from my experience with death metal, since I'm not really a death metal listener, I have to agree with what Francesca said, and she said that Nocturnus were a huge thing, and I need to agree on that because we're talking about the 90s anyway. So with Nocturnus, Death, even there's something that like put down the basis for what is technical death metal nowadays. Even it's very, very great because you see nowadays bands like I was mentioning about Artspire. You can see where they're coming from. So yeah, even though their career has been quote unquote quite short, because we're talking about just a decade, so it's not that much.
Oggi mi fanno santo. Allora, vediamo un pochettino.
Eufemismo. Hello Ryan.
Ascolta di me, mandami per favore il link alla di StreamYard.
Sì, te lo mando subito. Ok,
grazie.
Su WhatsApp te lo mando.
Yes. Ricordiamo che Francesca Cali è Death, che è un progetto Doom che verrà appunto portato sul canale.
Ah, ok, ottimo. Buonasera Andrea e alla The Thread Records.
Ciao Andre.
How did the idea to invite Mike for an interview come to you guys? First off, the creator. The idea really came to the maestro. Since we are usually talking, we have like our own Facebook chat. We're talking, and he just came out with the thing. It's like, but it's how it usually goes with him. So it's like, yeah, I have this name in the ad, so let's try and ask whether they are available or not, and that's how it happened, basically.
Welcome, Mike. Perfect.
Okay, I got to put back in now.
Welcome back to Calice Nero. We made it. So
I've never used a StreamYard before, and for some reason it doesn't like my phone very much.
Now sometimes it gives issues, but it's like the software that it's from StreamYard, so it may happen. That's no one's fault at all, luckily. By the way, I was saying thanks for being here to Il Calice Nero, and it's a real honor to have you here. We were just talking about the fact that you have like 40 years of career behind your shoulders, so it's quite a thing. And yeah, we were asking people opinions about Nocturnus and After Death, so your work in the past years. Allora, vabbè, ho ringraziato intanto di essere qua con noi al Calice Nero, e appunto gli ho fatto un veloce ricapitolo di quello che è venuto fuori.
Tanto dopo leggiamo tutti i commenti, domande, domande, quindi tranquilli ragazzi, recuperiamo la mezz'ora, non preoccupatevi, siamo qua. Allora, io voglio partire con una domanda proprio basica, totale. ci puoi fare un piccolo excursus quando hai intrapreso la carriera verso i Morbid Angel? C'è qualche aneddoto che ancora ti rimane dentro la mente? Quanto è stato fantastico suonare per la band di Tampa, il re di Tampa?
So is asking about your experience when you first started Morbid Angel back in 1983. Is asking, do you have any memory that you still recall that brought you to get the band done? So since you were of the co-founders of the band back then,
Well,
and if you want to share.
Yeah, I met Trey in high school, and we both kind of there wasn't a lot of back then in the 80s. It was like you had the preppies and you had the freaks and and this and that, and so we started talking one day and found out that we liked the same music, and so he said, "Oh, I play guitar," and I said, "Oh, I play drums." So we kind of got together and put like a little band together called ICE. And we did like a talent show at the high school, and that was kind of like the beginning of it all. And it kind of, we had a couple different names before Morbid Angel too. It started as Ice, and then it turned into Heretic. But we found out there was a Heretic in California at the time, and this was probably 1983. And it ended up turning into Morbid Angel in like 1984. And we found a bass player. For a long time we were just a 3-piece, and it was just bass, drums, and guitar, and nobody was singing for a while. And then Dallas, the bass player, started singing for when we started playing actual shows. We used to play a lot of parties and rent generators and just go out to the beach and just set up and play in the sand, things like that, and just sit there and just jam for like an hour, and we didn't even have really like songs at the time, hardly at all. But then we started actually writing songs, and then we decided to get a second guitar player. So Trey, because Trey liked to solo so much, it was we said, well, we need some rhythm behind all this, so you can solo all the time. So we ended up getting Richard Burnell in the band, and we became a 4-piece, more as Morbid Angel. And then we started playing a lot more shows and getting a lot more professional about things,
serious kind of venues instead of like keep playing at parties and so on.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then once we started getting venues and doing bigger shows, and we did like that outside show, and it was really big. It was like a festival with a bunch of bands, Massacre, Atheist, and all kinds of bands were there from the beginning, Obituary when they were called Executioner, things like that, so it was everything was just getting started back then, so it was like all new to everybody, but everybody got along, and everybody had different types of bands and it was all just heavy metal, basically, or metal. It was just metal back then. You didn't have a lot of categories of death metal, tech metal, black metal, gothic metal, or whatever you want to call it, whatever.
It was a little easier back then.
Yeah, it was all just metal back then.
Ok, allora riassumo velocemente quello che è stato detto. Praticamente lui conosce Trey da quando erano alle scuole superiori assieme, e hanno iniziato a parlare così. È venuto fuori appunto Trey, io suono la chitarra, lui Mike io suono la batteria. Quando hanno deciso di formare questa sorta di gruppo, era un che si chiamava Ice, quindi ghiaccio, e praticamente hanno fatto un come si dice, un talent show a scuola, e da là poi hanno iniziato a cambiare un attimo nome, sono diventati tipo Heretic, nell'83 dicevo lui, quindi nello stesso anno hanno cambiato nome, per poi ritrovarsi ad essere proprio Morbid Angel, perché hanno cambiato nome da Heretic a Morbid Angel per una questione di ce n'era un'altra band già in California, che si chiamava Electric, quindi ha detto no, meglio cambiare. E
Certo.
per quanto riguarda gli inizi proprio dei Morbid Angel, di per sé non è che facessero una cosa che fosse death metal, come magari si può considerare, perché all'epoca non c'erano tutte le categorie di generi che ci sono magari adesso, cioè loro facevano metal, punto. Però hanno iniziato suonando a feste, robe piccole, insomma. E hanno iniziato come trio, quindi erano batteria, basso e chitarra, nessuno cantava all'epoca. E poi, siccome ha detto che Trey è uno a cui piace fare assoli, non volevano togliergli la questione di fare assoli, eccetera, eccetera, quindi hanno aggiunto una seconda chitarra e sono diventati un quartetto. Quella che poi è stata la formazione, quella iniziale proprio del gruppo. Insomma, era fatto tutto per divertirsi praticamente.
Perfetto. A te la prossima domanda e poi leggiamo le domande appunto scandagliate appunto dei nostri spettatori. Tranquilli raga, leggiamo tutto. Prego.
Okay, now I'm going to make a question to you, and then we're going through the comments, since there's people that already got some questions for you. So we'll go through them as soon as we're done with my question. So my question to you is 40 years of you playing the drums, how did you get into playing drums, and what brought you into metal, and what kept you for these 40 plus years to keep going with the drums and keep yourself active behind the drum kit?
Well, I mean, I guess it started in school because I played, I think in 7th grade, I started playing drums in the school bands, and I did that all the way into high school, but only my 10th grade year, because after that, I had jobs and stuff after school, and I couldn't do the marching band anymore. So, but that was pretty much it. I learned to play drums in school, but as far as the drum set, I bought a drum set and a really small, like little 3-piece drum set, and that was probably like around 1980. And I just started. Back then we had records only. We didn't have. I don't even think we had cassettes back then. And I literally had a turntable behind me where my drums were set up, and I would just like throw a record on, and then just kind of start playing.
Play all the
these
tracks.
big, huge, speakers, on my stereo. I wasn't using headphones or anything at the time, so I just played really loud to like all the albums that I had. And there was a record store by my house, and I used to ride my bike there. And the guy, it was called Asylum Music, and the guy was really big into like the underground British heavy metal and stuff at the time. So, he would show me albums like Angel Witch and the first couple Iron Maiden records and things like that. And so I would, look at the cover and go, oh yeah, this is awesome. And I'd buy it and then take it home, and I, try to learn it. And, so that's how it kind of started. And then when I met, Trey in high school, and we started actually playing in a band together, that, it just kept my interest, that it was something that I wanted to keep doing. I always did it just because I really liked playing music, and I didn't want to do it for anything else other than the fact that I like to play, and I like creating stuff. I'm always creating something. So with the music, it was a very good outlet to be able to create something that, out of basically out of nothing. You just kind of start working with one little thing, and it ends up becoming a song.
So basically it has always been there for you, like no matter what.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've always liked to create things, like I said. So that's, I guess music ended up being the main outlet for that, and creating songs has always been the best part of it to me. You know, being able to make something out of nothing, and then you know you end up with this whole song, and you know then you put lyrics in it, and it becomes its own little thing, and it's you know it's kind of neat to be able to do that.
So that there's never been like the feeling of, oh my god, I do that because I have to do that.
No, I you know, with me, it's been kind of different because I've never I've never had to live to do music. I've always kept a job through this whole thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, playing was always something that I did because I wanted to, not because I had to, you know, make a paycheck this week, or, you know, I had a record company that was making me do music, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
of the contract or this or that. You know, it was more of a thing that was just I did it because I wanted to, not because I had to. And some
Mm-hmm.
people get, you know, they have to tour all year long, and they have bills to pay and things like that. And so they have to keep going with music if they want to do that as a career. So for some reason, it wasn't really and ended up as an actual career, even though it was something I did for my whole life. It wasn't really my main career. It was always something that I did on my terms and the way I wanted to do it, and that actually made it a lot better for me, to be able to kind of do things the way I want to do them, and not the way I have to do them because I have to put out an album every year or something like that. You know, it's been, you know, sometimes for several years I didn't do anything as far as putting music out. You know, so it just was like, you know, when I feel creative, I like to do, you know, make songs, and that's pretty much what it came down to.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty interesting because you, especially nowadays, you see people that's like, yeah, I love to do music because I love to do music, but
Mhm.
I have to actually do some to to get something out. Otherwise, I don't not just get my my bills like paid. It's just that the label gets between the band and the music, and it screws them over somehow. And that's great to see that in your whole career you've never been through something like this. So that's great to see that.
Well, you know, I've been ripped off by labels several times, you know, things like
Okay.
that. Yeah, that's why, to me, I didn't want to put my whole life into that because, you know,
Mhm.
it's such a weird business. As far as the business end of music, I really don't like that end of it because there's so many people that want to scam this, and you know, make all the money off the bands and not give it to the bands. I mean, even nowadays, you know, with electronic music the way it is, you know, Spotify and Apple and all that, it's like, you know, your band, your album is streaming on YouTube before it even comes out usually, and you know, it's like you're just lucky if people buy it these days at all.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
bands are basically stuck having to tour to make any kind of money at all, and even at that, it's all your money comes from your merchandise, and not
Mhm.
really just touring, but you have to do it like, you know, 9, 10 months out of the year if you want to be really successful in as music as a career.
Mhm.
Ok.
Ok, praticamente gli ho chiesto
Mhm.
qual è, cos'è che l'ha portato a suonare la batteria, visto che comunque è una carriera, come dicevamo all'inizio, così tanto lunga alle
Certo.
spalle, e cosa l'ha tenuto interessato a suonare la batteria. Perché
Ok.
comunque tutti questi anni comunque devi ehm, rimanerti un determinato interesse per poter continuare. E questo perché lui, come ha detto, e inizio già anche con la questione della risposta che lui ha dato,
Ok.
lui non ha mai fatto musicista come lavoro. Lui ha sempre tenuto un lavoro effettivo per cui potersi pagare le bollette, vivere, eccetera, eccetera. E lui ha iniziato appunto a suonare non la batteria in sé, ma appunto ha iniziato a suonare ehm, in una banda alle scuole superiori, quindi da là appunto ha iniziato a prendere in mano lo strumento. Poi è passato a una batteria molto basilare, un 3 pezzi, quindi molto molto base, con cui lui si allenava, appunto iniziava a prendere mano. Dietro la sua batteria però aveva un giradischi che all'epoca era l'unica roba forse che almeno a detta sua che si poteva avere, che quindi non c'erano ancora cassette chissà quanto presenti. E cosa faceva? Con 2 casse enormi sparava gli album e lui suonava sopra le canzoni. E questo è stato portato avanti anche dal fatto che vicino a casa sua si trovava un negozio di dischi dove lui andava tranquillamente in bicicletta e andava a comprare qualsiasi cosa, però il tizio che lavorava dentro questo negozio era un fanatico per quanto riguarda la scena heavy metal britannica underground, e quindi almeno all'epoca, quindi ha iniziato a fargli vedere tipo gli Iron Maiden, e lui è rimasto stupito dalle copertine, quindi ha iniziato a prenderseli e portarseli a casa, diciamo così.
Ci credo.
E sì, e da là poi assieme a Trey e tutta la questione che è venuta fuori si è un po' più spostata. E per quanto riguarda il mantenere l'interesse, lui appunto ha suonato per tutti questi anni, non tanto per come dicevo prima, una questione di doversi pagare le bollette. Lui ha sempre fatto batterista per suonare secondo i suoi termini, cioè nel senso che non l'ha mai fatto per una questione di cazzo, devo scrivere musica. No, non è mai stato il caso, e anzi, appunto, come dicevo prima, lui ha sempre avuto un lavoro fisso dietro, quindi quello che non l'ho portato a farlo lavorativamente parlando è stata proprio una questione di non mi andava di fare 9-10 mesi di tour per mandare avanti la baracca, non ne vale la pena. Ed è una cosa, esatto, sempre tenuto come hobby. E a maggior ragione, vedendo come stanno andando le cose adesso, con la questione degli streaming, non vieni pagato abbastanza da poterti mantenere.
Ok.
Quindi dovresti appesantire
Allora,
ulteriormente il tutto.
Perdonami, Adimer, se ti ho
No, ho
interrotto.
finito io.
Perdona. Ok, allora, leggiamo la domanda di Howard, scusate, Hallen.
Have you guys heard Paradox? I don't know whether it should be an album or a band. I'm not sure about that. So
Allora,
let me
un'altra domanda.
check real quick. Sì.
L'altra domanda, appunto, di Elbino. Prego.
E che vabbè, chiedeva come è venuto in mente di fare l'intervista, ma ho già risposto inizialmente, quindi puoi andare avanti.
Ok, passiamo avanti. Appunto con questo commento di Ricard.
I don't take pictures in Rome in 92. I guess they're talking about a show that you did with Nocturnus back in 92 in Italy.
Yeah.
They were talking in the chat about if they had any pictures about that show. So it's not really the question that they went for, because they were talking between users. But what memories do you have of playing like in Europe, in Italy, back in the 90s?
Well, back then it was pretty crazy. The first time we toured Europe was with Bolt Thrower, and so that went really well. And there were the really big crowds and everywhere we played, but we didn't. we didn't play Italy the first time we played there with Bolt Thrower, but we did, like you were talking about there in 1992 when we came back for the Thresholds tour. We Confessor was opening up for us, and we played in Rome. And I remember, I do remember that show because the club, it was in the summer, and the club was so hot in that club, and it was really close to where everything was downtown and all that, and I just remembered how hot that show was when we finished playing. I got off the drums, and there was like the backstage was underneath the stage.
The venue.
And
Okay.
I remember going down the stairs, and there was literally smoke coming off my body because it was so hot. It was really hot, and it was crazy. I was totally overheated, and but it was really crowded, and that place was packed. It was really a good show.
That's great, because I mean, especially if you go in summer, like in center Italy, it's seriously a blast whenever it's all inside. So I can see why it's like sweating so much. Allora, praticamente ha detto che sì, non hanno suonato chissà quanto in Europa, ok, ma appunto parlando del concerto, quello del 92 a Roma, praticamente sì, si sono divertiti un sacco, perché comunque hanno avuto una band in apertura che si chiamava Confessor, e
Ok.
praticamente quel concerto là ha detto che il posto dove hanno suonato era rovente, cioè si bolliva dentro, perché poi tra l'altro era d'estate. Ha detto che non si ricorda con certezza, però appunto non ci mettiamo il beneficio del dubbio. E praticamente si ricorda che quando è uscito quando ha finito di suonare, è smontato dalla batteria, e appunto avevano il backstage praticamente sotto rispetto al palco, quindi dovevano scendere delle scale.
Ok.
Si ricorda che è uscito coperto di fumo dal caldo che c'era là dentro.
Perfetto, così appunto stiamo leggendo qualche commento, appunto, anche questo commento lo devi tradurre perché ci vuole, appunto, di Vito, di Kefra, Mike, grande batterista completo, sei il Phil Collins del black metal, cioè.
Mike, you're a great drummer and a complete one. You're they say you're the Phil Collins of black metal.
Ci vuole. Allora, partiamo con una domanda.
Sì.
Ah, scusami.
No, volevo leggere una
Vai.
domanda di Ryan O'Neill.
Ah sì, scusami, l'avevo
che l'ho
persa.
mostrata
Sì,
anche
scusami, hai
prima.
fatto bene. Sì.
Ryan asking,
Questa qua?
ever working with Mike Davis again?
I mean, I would not ever say no to that, for sure. Mike and I did remain to be friends for, and we actually did play together a few times. I think I want to say around 2004 or 5. He was coming over to my house, and we actually were going to start writing songs again, and we wrote a couple songs and played together a few times. But then he moved like upstate Florida, so he doesn't live in Tampa anymore, and he never really liked social media or anything like that, so he doesn't have a Facebook page or anything. And when he moved, I just never really heard from him again. I know he's still around, but I don't even know if he's actually what he's doing anymore. But I mean, we were on good terms when he moved, so
Mhm.
I would never say no to something like that, because we work together very well, and
Mhm.
and if he wanted to ever do a project, I probably would do it, because like I said, we were going to do it back in the mid 2000s, and but it just, like I said, he moved, he sold his house and moved, and it just didn't end up happening.
Mhm. So basically it's a never say never kind of thing.
Right, yeah, basically, yeah.
Ok, praticamente Ryan chiedeva se ha la volontà di lavorare nuovamente con Mike Davis, che ricorda è chitarrista dei Nocturnus. Praticamente quello che è venuto fuori ha detto che sì, sicuramente vorrà lavorare con lui ancora. Ironia della sorte, loro due nel 2004-2005, quindi appunto metà dei primi 2000, si trovavano ogni tanto per suonare qualcosa assieme, quindi senza nessun impegno, e dovevano anche mettersi a scrivere nuovamente musica assieme, quindi creare qualcosa. Solo che poi Mike Davis si è spostato nella parte alta della Florida, e non essendo lui un amante dei social, quindi niente Facebook, niente vera possibilità di contattarsi, esatto, non ha avuto modo. E appunto
Ok.
lui, Mike Browning ha detto sì, siamo rimasti in buoni rapporti quando lui si è trasferito, quindi mai dire mai, insomma. Quindi una di quelle occasioni che, se dovesse essere, va più che volentieri.
Perfetto. Allora, Edward, welcome Edward Pavlovic, che ci segue appunto dalla Finlandia. Ciao, buonasera Arrogat, che abbiamo avuto già in sede di intervista appunto su il canale. La domanda che mi viene da chiedere è questa. Mike, come sei riuscito a creare dei colori, a creare un'arte, a creare un qualcosa di nascosto, visibile a pochi occhi, attraverso la tua creatura, la tua musica, il tuo estro?
Okay, so now we're diving more into the typical Il Calice Nero kind of questions. So, now the question is, how do you feel about having created back in the days uh, something new, some giving some colors to the world with your music and your creature that has been Morbid Angel back in the day?
Well, the weird thing is, when you're there at the time and the way things were back then, you didn't really think of it as like you were going to be doing something that was going to become huge one day. You just we just kind of used to jam for a long time. We just would strap our instruments on, and I'd sit behind the drums and we just play,
And do
just to make music. And they turned into songs, and then we got a little more serious with writing songs. But uh, it there was not a lot of bands and not a lot of categories of bands. So when we wrote, we just kind of like did it for ourselves, and we just called it metal, and then we didn't expect it to become as big as it did, that's for sure. But I think because there was not a lot of bands, everybody had a lot of room to be creative, and we didn't have a lot of influences. I mean, there was stuff like Slayer and Merciful Fate and things like that, Venom. But for me, I never really wanted to sound like anybody else. I liked a lot of bands, but
Mhm.
I always tried to not sound like them, if that makes any sense. You know,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
I I would try to come up with my own way of doing things. Influenced, but not sounding like somebody else. So it was kind of cool because of the timing that it was, and the fact that you didn't have a million death metal bands out and black metal bands out, and it's really hard to still come up with original stuff these days, with as much music as there is out there now. So
Yeah.
the bands that were there at the time had a lot of room to write and kind of come up with your own things that weren't influenced by hardly anything.
So basically, you went on to create something by blatantly going like, yeah, fuck it, let's do whatever we want to. We have no boundaries. Let's put like
Exactly.
100% of ourselves in. Ok. Praticamente il tutto è venuto fuori in maniera molto eterogenea, nel senso che comunque all'interno della creatura Morbid Angel tutti quanti avevano ampio spazio di lavoro, nel senso che non c'era uno che si occupa di una cosa e,
Un'equipe.
e basta, praticamente. Esatto, era tutto un insieme. E appunto all'epoca, non essendoci, come dicevamo prima, molte distinzioni tra generi, quindi era semplicemente metal, loro potevano fare quello che volevano, quindi è quello che hanno deciso di fare. Non si sono dati dei limiti, non avevano effettivamente delle influenze. Loro praticamente facevano quello che gli piaceva fare, non si sono mai posti il problema di suonare simile a qualcuno o che. Quindi è stato molto, molto naturale.
A te la domanda, dimmela, e poi leggiamo la domanda di Nicola Rosetti. Prego.
Sì. How did you feel back then when you've seen the first actual release? I mean, okay, we know it's a demo tape, the Bleed for the Devil, and how did you feel when you see like the tape made with your name on it and being able to say, okay, I've done this?
Yeah, that's, the demos and things are your first step in music. When and those were actually really just live recordings. We never went into a studio until we did one thing in the studio with a singer named Kenny Bamber, which ended up on a CD and it was only like 3 songs, I believe. But we never went into a studio until we did Abominations and really recorded anything big time, like Bleed for the Devil thing, when Trey put that together and in the tape trading days. And that's basically, we just needed something to trade with because everybody was trading their tapes and we didn't have an album or anything. So we just basically put together a tape of some live songs and rehearsal songs and just kind of threw it out there just to see what would happen. And it actually got us, signed to be able to do the Abominations record. And, it wasn't, we were just trading it back then. We didn't even send it to any record companies. We weren't at that point yet to where we felt like we were going to get, a full album ready to go. Yeah. And it just kind of like, a guy that used to live in Tampa knew, Goric Records, and he was in a band with David Vincent at the time, who owned Goric Records. And I guess he played the tape, told him about us, and we sent him the tape, and he signed us right away. And, we weren't that prepared to do an album at the time. I had only been singing for maybe 5 or 6 months. And a lot of the songs that ended up on Abominations were, some of them were a couple years old, but a lot of them we were just kind of like pushing to get them together just so we would have an album's worth of stuff.
So basically it has been all used to like spread the name, and everything else came by itself, like slowly, with no pushing really.
Right. Yeah. We just really wanted to have something out there to trade with, because back then that's what everybody was doing, was tape trading. And it was really big. It was a pretty, it all went through the snail mail, basically. So, but that's the way things were back then. You didn't have any internet, you didn't have cell phones, you didn't have anything like that. CDs weren't a thing. So the main thing were cassettes, and everybody would make these little, cassette tapes of, with your favorite songs on them. And then you would throw maybe a couple songs of your own on there if you had them. And then you'd start trading tapes with other people. all over the world. And then people started doing their own little fanzines and things like that, and it just like, it just kind of grew from that small of a thing.
Perfetto.
Ok, praticamente gli ho chiesto come si è sentito all'inizio quando ha visto il suo primo prodotto con il suo nome sopra in mano, e la sua risposta è stata molto esemplare, nel senso che alla fine lui ha detto che quello che hanno fatto come demo di per sé non sono stati demo che poi sono stati effettivamente mandati a etichette, o che erano dei demo che sono stati praticamente delle registrazioni in studio, quindi dei live registrati, chiamiamoli così, in studio.
Okay.
E praticamente è stato creato perché tutti quanti all'epoca andavano con il tape trading, quindi con lo scambio di cassette in giro per
sì,
il
sì.
mondo, e pur di avere qualcosa fuori, hanno fatto in modo di avere queste cassette fatte finite. Nel momento in cui praticamente hanno iniziato a far girare il nome tra appunto amici, comunque gente che magari metteva le loro canzoni all'interno delle loro cassette a loro volta, quindi quelle con le poste normali poi spedivano queste cassette, eccetera, si sono ritrovati con un contratto, e praticamente è venuto tutto fuori naturalmente, perché poi da questo contratto è venuto fuori Abominations of Desolation, che
Gran bel
è
disco.
esatto, che è del 91 come uscita, ma in realtà è stato registrato nell'86, quindi è
Sì, perché
di
era
per
una
sé.
demo, poi ristampati in CD, in full.
E quindi praticamente anche per quello è venuto fuori tutto quanto, perché hanno detto anche solo per l'album dobbiamo avere delle canzoni, quindi ehm, hanno fatto un insieme di cose che li ha portati a quello che poi loro non pensavano fosse una cosa che avrebbe avuto lo spessore che ha oggi. Quindi era tutta una cosa fatta senza pensarci effettivamente. Poi si sono ritrovati ad essere quello che sono adesso.
Però una cosa di getto e poi è diventata una pietra miliare.
Esatto.
La domanda di Nicola. Ciao Nicola, grazie
Sì,
del supporto.
Nicola is asking, how do you consider an album like Ethereal Tomb?
Well, I didn't play on that one, so it happened after me, and I had my own band going at the time, so I don't really, know what to say about that.
No, I guess he's asking really as an outsider kind of perspective. How do you see that album?
It's a good album. There's nothing wrong with it, as far as that. As far as Nocturnus, I mean, it had people that were in the band, of course, but I was the founding member of Nocturnus, and I came up with the name, and I wasn't on the album, so that's kind of a weird thing always for me to consider about that. Considering that I started the band and I came up with the name, and they continued on without any original members, and that just it is what it is. But I moved on and did my own thing, and now I have Nocturnus AD, which is a continuation of what I really wanted the band to be after the key came out, because I was singing and playing drums on the key, and I had specific ideas of where to take a lot of the songs, and actually none of those songs were continued on Thresholds, so it was a whole different type of album than the key. And so when I created Nocturnus AD, it was basically to kind of continue where the key left off, kind of lyric wise and song wise.
Ok.
Ok, praticamente la sua risposta è stata che sì, nonostante appunto non ci abbia suonato, quell'album non ha nulla di sbagliato, diciamo così. È ovvio che ha un po' di risentimenti, chiamiamolo così, con gli altri membri, perché poi, essendo lui uno dei membri fondatori, ha portato avanti il gruppo senza membri originali e fanno uscire questo materiale. Sì, gli è, tra virgolette, magari sbaglio il termine, dispiaciuto vedere che la cosa sia andata avanti quasi, tra virgolette, in barba a lui.
Cioè, si sono girate
Ed
un
è
po' le
questo
palle.
che, esatto, e che è questo che l'ha portato poi a formare il Nocturnus AD, che sono la continuazione definitiva di quella che era i Nocturnus all'epoca, perché poi sono andati avanti secondo il suo effettivo volere, il volere di Mike.
Allora, pongo la domanda io, poi appunto Adimer, e poi leggiamo quella di Vito, e poi facciamo sempre io e Adimer, e poi leggiamo anche la domanda di Ricard. Quindi cerchiamo di inglobare tutte le domande anche vostre, ragazzi. Allora, Mike, tu dovessi trasformarti completamente in un pittore, però allo stesso tempo senza una tela, quindi senza il materiale con cui lavorare, devi lavorare attraverso la tua mente e con un pennello, in poche parole devi disegnare la musica attraverso questo pennello in una situazione che non esiste, perché non hai nessuna tela. Come avverrebbe tutto ciò?
Okay, this question is quite tricky, so bear with me. I will try to give it as much sense as possible.
Okay.
He's asking, imagine that you were a painter, that you need to like paint your music on this frame, which has no actual Jesus Christ, how do you call it? Like the paper where you paint on, basically. I just forgot
The canvas?
the canvas. Yeah,
Yeah.
and and you need to basically paint something abstract, reflecting your own music. What would you picture on that painting?
Well, I think it kind of got nailed pretty good with our covers. Um,
Okay.
they it's kind of where you would have otherworldly creatures coming through gates.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'd have these gates that were put there a long time ago, but reopened in the future, and these creatures are coming through from other dimensions. And kind of, I see the music as something like that too. Like it comes from another dimension, and it doesn't. To me, a successful song is something that doesn't sound like anything else.
Okay.
Anybody can take beats and parts of other songs and create another song out of it, and that's real easy to do. But to come up with something that doesn't sound like anything else is really, to me, the goal of creating a song. And it would be the same with a painting. It would kind of look like nothing you've ever seen before, and it would just be like almost like a live canvas of just flowing things happening.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, because most of the times I have to agree, like that the artwork has to have the the power to actually picture down the music. So I can see why you're saying something like that. And yeah, I was looking like right now at the cover art for the key, and in fact, as you were saying, like it's full of like everything and nothing, but and kinda, and it's amazing. Like seriously, that artwork is fucking great from my point of view.
Praticamente,
yeah.
I love the way the key artwork came out. It when I first saw it, and we had an original painting done before that, and it was the same painting exactly, but done by somebody here in Tampa. And the record company didn't like it because they said it looked too much like a 1970s comic book cover, you know, not very detailed and things like that.
Okay.
But so they took that painting and gave it to Dan Seagrave, and Dan Seagrave made his painting from that painting. So it's the same painting exactly, but done by Dan, which was a lot more detailed than the original one. And when we saw it, I was blown away by it. You know, I was like, wow, definitely this is what I want for the cover. And with like with Nocturnus AD Paradox, you know, we tried to get as close as we could to continuing that same type of artwork and storyline in the artwork on the cover. And it kind of like just like on the key and Paradox, the artwork kind of captures the whole storyline of several of the songs that have a storyline of the key.
Ok, praticamente lui ha detto che per quanto riguarda la sua musica, lui vuole che le copertine parlano per sé, nel senso che sì, vedi qualcosa di astratto, ma che comunque deve essere in grado di descrivere la musica, nel senso che già solo guardando quella tu devi capire, ok, si tratta di queste e queste cose. E appunto lui ha detto che per quanto riguarda quello che è uscito, appunto che ha fatto lui, effettivamente così è stato, nel senso che sono fedeli rispetto a quello che è il contenuto, che non c'è nulla di sbagliato in tutto questo. E stavamo parlando appunto della copertina di The Key, che è il debut album dei Nocturnus. E ironia della sorte, praticamente già quest'album, che è pieno di roba tecnologica, perché appunto per chi non conoscesse la copertina c'è una sorta di robot seduto su comunque tutti i pezzi di non lo so neanche io cosa, perché sono tutta roba tecnologica, scarti eccetera, su viola. E quella copertina là praticamente, esatto.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Beh, praticamente quella copertina là è stata fatta inizialmente da un pittore là di Tampa, però non è piaciuta l'etichetta, perché dicevano che era troppo cartunesca come copertina, quindi hanno chiesto di rifare la stessa copertina a Dan Seagrave, che è appunto un artista inglese che ha fatto copertine come per gruppi come Suffocation, Decrepit Birth, tra i svariatissimi, e il risultato è venuto fuori molto più dettagliato rispetto a quello che era inizialmente, e lui stesso, appunto Mike, è rimasto sconvolto dal risultato finale. E diciamo che questo concetto di copertine che rispecchiano la musica, tutto quello che vuoi, poi è stato portato avanti anche su l'unico album, quello di Nocturnus AD, Paradox, che riporta un po' lo stesso concetto, quindi della questione tecnologica, eccetera, eccetera, con un po' lo stesso storyline, e appunto che sia la copertina a parlare per sé.
Ok, te la domanda successiva di me,
sì.
vai.
Ti chiedo 2 secondi solo, se
certo.
puoi andare avanti un attimo con i saluti.
Ok, one moment please, Mike. Allora ragazzi, veramente grazie a tutti chi sta seguendo la diretta, quindi a Ricard, Vito, Nicola, Edward, eccetera, eccetera. Veramente grazie a tutti ragazzi. Vi ricordo che appunto il 12 ci sarà il progetto di Francesca Cari che ci sta seguendo, Ars Dead, che è un progetto Doom molto, veramente molto molto interessante. Quindi ci saranno il 17, se non ricordo male, di maggio, gli Slaughter, gruppo hardcore punk trash from USA. Ricordiamo, ok, perfetto, vai Adime.
I'm back. Okay, now I'm going to quickly ask you what is your drum kit consisting of? Maybe something that you get, like you ask pretty often, but how did your drum set change through the years? This is some sort of technical thing.
Yeah, I mean, the first drum set I had when I was in Morbid Angel was a Tama Imperial Star kit, and it didn't have the bottom heads on the toms. They were called concert toms. So even when I went into Morris Sound, Tom Morris was like, "I'm not going to use this drum set to record because it's not a studio drum set. It's made for live stuff." So but we did, and we made it work, and we played a place in Tampa one time where it was pouring rain, and the roof was filling up. It was an outside venue, and it had like a canopy.
Oh, okay.
And the roof was filling up with rain, so they took these poles and pushed it up to push the water off the back. And we had already played, and the band after us was playing or about to play. And when they pushed the water off, like this whole waterfall of water came down on my drums.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
Basically what happened after that is my drums started like expanding the wood, because it was like was made of more like almost like a particle board type of wood inside. It wasn't like most drums, and it started expanding, and my drums were ruined. They started actually just falling apart. So I ended up having to get another kit after that. But when we did Thresholds, we rented a brand new DW kit, and so I had to kind of play on that kit. I only had like one day to set it up and kind of get used to it to record the album, but it still worked out pretty good. But I've always liked to use a lot of toms, and smaller toms. I always like the the real small 6, 8, and 10-inch rototom sound and things like that.
Okay.
So like right now I have a full rototom kit. It's all rototoms, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and I even have an 18-inch floor tom that I don't use that much. I usually just use the 1 16-inch, but I have like 6 toms, and the kick drums are real 1970, and the rototoms are 1970s rototoms. They're old ones, or 80s, I should say, 1980, the original rototoms. They're not new ones, and the kick drums are actual 1970s Vistalite clear, like Bonham used.
Okay. So the plexiglass.
Yeah. So the kick drums are clear, and I have all the rototoms, and then I have a cage, all of that on a cage with my cymbals, and I don't have like an elaborate cymbal setup. It's just I have a couple crashes. I have 3 crashes, a ride, and a splash, and a china, and then I have a set of chimes, which the chimes I've had ever since. It's the same set of chimes that's actually back on the key. The wood top, I've replaced that, but I kept all the actual chimes themselves. And I still have that, and I still use it quite a bit. We just recorded our new record, and it's not mixed yet, but the recording is completely done, and we're going to mix it on the 14th. I believe we're going to start mixing. And we used Jarrett Pritchard, the same guy that we used on Paradox, because he's just an amazing engineer and producer, and he runs sound for bands like 1349, Triptychon, Hellhammer, Goat Horror. I mean, he just did the Dark Angel tour. I mean, he's an amazing engineer and sound man, and he's a really good producer too. He plays guitar. He's a fantastic guitar player. So when we go in the studio and work with him, he's almost like a new member of the band. He actually, he actually, oh, try this here, and he comes up with a lot of. He actually does do producing for us. We don't just go in there and record, and he just puts it on tape, and then that's it. He actually sits down with us, and we work things out with him, and sometimes he'll go, oh, try this here, and and it's really good working with somebody like that, because he knows what we want, but he also puts his own producing thoughts into it, and it really worked out well. So that's why we wanted to use him on the next this album here. So the album is actually recorded, and like I said, we're going to be mixing it probably on the 14th. I believe we start for a week. We got like a week of mixing, and then it'll go to mastering. So hopefully it'll be out by the end of the year.
Okay, that's great. But so you're like thought into drums. It's more like keep vintage kind of look / sound, but modernizing it.
Yeah, I mean, especially since I sing, having the rototoms, you can, and the clear drum, the clear kicks, it's you can see right through the whole kit. So because the kit that I had in Morbid Angel was so big, the Imperial Star kit, and the toms were huge, and the bass drums were huge, and all you couldn't see me back there singing. So all you saw was like a drum set and a voice coming from it, and so I kind of wanted to put together a drum set that sounded different, because I like different things. So I went with the rototoms, and plus, like I said, you could see right through the kit pretty much, because it's all, if you know what rototoms are, you know that they're, really flat, just like a drum head, and that's about it. And so I kind of wanted to put something together that was open to where when I'm singing, people can see me a lot better.
Yeah, it makes a scene. Allora, praticamente gli ho chiesto, dal punto di vista tecnico, com'è cambiata la sua batteria nel corso degli anni. Ha detto che di per sé è rimasta più o meno simile per quanto riguarda le registrazioni, o comunque quello che è stato. Praticamente i primissimi anni lui aveva questa it was an Imperial Star Kit, the first one that you had.
The what? Imperial Star.
The drum kit was Imperial Star Kit.
Yeah, Tama Imperial Star.
Ok, praticamente usava una Tama Imperial nei primissimi periodi, che però aveva solo la pelle dove colpivi, quindi non aveva quella sul fondo, solo che appunto non era da concerti, non potevano utilizzarla dal vivo in studio, ma l'hanno utilizzata lo stesso, perché era impossibile. Però a un concerto, praticamente, solo che pioveva talmente tanto, venio all'esterno, quindi avevano appena finito di suonar loro, della gente cerca di togliere dal tetto del palco l'acqua con dei pali, l'acqua cade dietro, finisce sulla batteria, e siccome non era legno pieno, nel senso che era tipo viene quasi truccolato adesso, e ha iniziato a espandersi, quindi a rovinarsi, ha dovuto comprare una batteria nuova, e praticamente da là poi si è evoluto in quella che è diventata la sua batteria di adesso, quindi ha dei rototom, che sono praticamente dei tom che vengono accordati girandoli, quindi sarebbero 6 pollici, 8 pollici, 10 pollici, 14 e 16, se non ricordo male, però ho detto che il 16 non lo usa chissà quanto, lo usa su alcune parti, e usa delle gran casse in acrilico trasparente, quindi stile Bonham, per intenderci, e da 17 pollici. Quindi sì, praticamente ha detto che la scelta è stata sì un po' da un punto di vista di suono, che nel senso che gli piace la roba particolare, quindi ma comunque semplice, perché sì, oltre ad avere una miriade di tom, ha come piatti veramente poca roba. Ha detto 3 Crash Ride, China, vabbè, il Charleston e un set di campanelline. E ha detto: a me piace che sia trasparente questa batteria, perché col fatto che lui canta e suona allo stesso tempo, si può vedere lui che
Ho
fa,
capito.
appunto, che canta e suona, mentre all'epoca con i Morbid Angel vedevi una batteria
Certo.
e una voce venire da dietro e basta.
E basta. Ok, leggiamo la domanda appunto di Mr. Vito.
So Vito is asking, what's the value for you? Sorry, how much is important for you satanism in lyrics?
I like, I like to add a lot of different things in my lyrics, and that is one facet of it. When I was a lot younger, it was more of of the thing I focused on, and I've always liked the occult, and I have over 500 books on the occult, and I've always been interested in it, and I've always read up on it, and and studied things, and I for me it was kind of interesting to be able to put the lyrics into the music and make something out of that, and for me the occult kind of came through in a lyrical form, and worked with the music as a
As a
medium.
whole. Okay.
Right. And one thing that you can say is, like, there's a million languages, in the world, but one thing that speaks to everybody is music. You don't have to know any particular language to know if you like a song or not. It vibrates. It has a vibration that vibrates with you. Either it does or it doesn't. And like, especially like, take you guys in Europe, most of your lyrics are sung in English, and I always found that interesting that it ended up that way. But it really, the lyrics, what language they're in, really doesn't matter. It's the vibration that the music puts out, and the lyrics are contained inside of that vibration. So to me, that's always been a very big thing of the creation of music, is how the vibrations of the music itself expands into the universe. Basically, it's kind of a weird way to think about things, but when I kind of think about things that way when I write lyrics, and I write a lot about sci-fi stuff. Growing up in the 1970s, my favorite stuff was sci-fi films, horror films, things like that. So of course that's going to make a big impact on the type of stuff that I like to write as well. But like I said, with the music, it's all about creating something that it's like a child almost, that you create, and once you've created it, it does what it wants to do to everybody else. Once I write a song and it gets recorded and put out, it no longer can change in its form, but it can change other people the way they listen to it.
Perfetto.
And for me, that is a way of magical evocation, and invocation. So I've always looked at my songs as little magical pieces of things.
Yeah, every song basically becomes some sort of its own ritual.
Exactly. The one thing I've noticed with the stuff I've put out is, like, so many people, with most bands, that a lot of people like one particular song on the record, but the one thing I've noticed is, like, so many people have a different favorite song on the key and a different favorite song off of Paradox, And I always find that interesting, you know, when people tell me, "Oh, this is my favorite song on the album." No, this is my favorite song. You know, it's like it always seems to be kind of like different. It's not like one particular song. Like some bands have one song that really stands out and everybody likes the record. It just seems like you know, a lot of people hear a different favorite song.
But I guess it's quickly connected to what you said about vibrating with every person a different way. So I can see the point. Ok, praticamente ha detto, per quanto riguarda la questione dei test, che sì, comunque lui da quando era ragazzino ha avuto ha detto intorno ai 500 libri sull'occultismo, quindi comunque un po' di influenza quella l'ho avuto. Detto che però di per sé nei testi non è una cosa che sì, ovviamente gli dà peso, però deve combaciare con quello che è la musica, con quello che è il contesto della musica. E ovviamente lui, essendo appassionato di questa cosa qua, l'ha implementato nella sua musica. E lo stesso vale per gli elementi, quelli di fantascienza, che principalmente nei Nocturnus utilizza. Cioè, lui è cresciuto negli anni 70 con film di fantascienza, horror, eccetera, quindi è molto facile che venga fuori quello con cui sei cresciuto. Un'altra cosa che lui ha detto è che, come si dice, sì, il testo deve lavorare bene con la musica, ma di per sé è la musica che parla in sé. Vedi il fatto che lui ha parlato di gente che ha diverse persone che hanno diverse canzoni preferite su uno stesso album, e per farti capire appunto il fatto che di per sé è la musica il linguaggio principale che ha senso. E infatti ha detto, ad esempio, per quanto riguarda le band europee, che non capisce come mai facciano testi in inglese, dando importanza al fatto che siano in inglese. Un'altra cosa che lui ha accennato è come si dice, il fatto che sia appunto un linguaggio universale, quindi appunto che rimanga la musica a parlare.
Allora, complimenti appunto verso Adimer, appunto questo messaggio qua.
Grazie mille.
No, ne vale veramente la pena, perché ottimo mio fido collaboratore, veramente con le contropalle, quindi Dark Medieval Time, salutiamo. L'ultima domanda, appunto, prima di chiudere, come promesso, di Ricard Tedeschi, che ci ha seguito dal primo secondo della prima
Allora,
intervista.
sì,
No,
allora
aspetta,
è la
scusa.
domanda appena sopra.
E questa è la domanda,
Esatto.
scusami. Eccola qua. Scusami, errore mio.
Ok, praticamente dico già subito in italiano. Praticamente
Vai.
chiede se Abominations of Desolation è stato fatto uscire per earache per la questione di vinili bootleg che sono usciti prima dell'uscita ufficiale sotto earache. Richard is asking, did earache release Abominations of Desolation also because of the bootleg vinyl that was released before it?
I do believe that was the reason. I mean, I had nothing to do with the release of it. That was pretty much up to David and Trey, because David owned the recordings, and you know, obviously it was Trey's band. So when the album got shelved, it wasn't going to come out. But then I know that the bass player we had, John Ortega, he had a tape of it, and when he was out of the band first, right off the bat, I know he was kind of trading the album around before it even got mastered. And I believe that's what ended up as that one Satanic Records bootleg, how that got out. and I guess it was, being sold and traded so much that the decision was made by Earache and David and Trey to go ahead and just put it out on vinyl to kind of stop the bootlegging. Like I said, I had I didn't even know it had come out when it was out, and I was on Earache at the time. A friend of mine was listening to it at a gas station. I pulled up to a gas station. My friend was parked there, and he goes, "Man, this sounds really good, this Abominations." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. You liked it." And this was like, 1991 or 1992. It was around that era, and one of those 2 years. And I said, "Cool. You got a pretty decent copy of it there." And he goes, "No, this is the Earache copy." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
What?
I'm like, what do you mean? And then he shows me the actual, CD, and I'm like, what? I had no idea that it had even come out on CD, on my own label that I was on, and I was like, okay, well, I guess this is good, but the funny thing is they put it out and they never put any information on it at all. They didn't put who was playing on it. They didn't put any pictures. They didn't even use the cover that was going to be, possibly the real cover of Abominations. So it was kind of like a weird thing altogether. It was definitely, from what I understand, to stop the bootlegging, though.
Ok, allora la storia è abbastanza intrigante, perché praticamente ha detto che sì, quasi sicuramente la motivazione per cui è uscito Abominations of Desolation con Earache, appunto per fermare la questione del bootlegging, quindi tutta la questione dei bootleg della Satanic Records. E la questione era diventata talmente tanto massiccia che pur di dire basta, hanno fatto uscire l'album. Appunto, sono venuti a conoscenza dei bootleg tramite cassette varie che hanno iniziato a girare, comunque, quindi hanno fatto un giro particolare. E tra l'altro quelli che hanno avuto a che fare effettivamente con l'uscita sono stati Trey e were they Trey and John that actually took part into the release of Abominations, if I'm not mistaken, that you said?
Oh, was that to me?
Yeah, sorry. Was it Trey and John who took care of the release, if I'm not mistaken?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I know, like I said, David owned the recordings. He paid for the album to be recorded, so he actually owned the recordings themselves. And of course, Trey owned the music end of it because he wrote, all the music. And so I'm not sure what they did deal wise with Earache as far as that, but I think it pretty much had to do with just that. I think David sold them the rights to the recordings to be able to put them out.
Ok, praticamente ha detto che sì, si sono occupati Trey e molto probabilmente David, che era il produttore dell'album, nel senso che David ha pagato per quanto riguarda la cosa, quindi era effettivamente il proprietario delle canzoni, però il proprietario effettivo era Trey, quindi quello è stato tutto. Praticamente lui, adesso inizia la parte divertente della storia, è venuto a conoscenza dell'uscita tramite Earache per un semplice motivo. C'era un suo amico appunto parliamo del 91-92, comunque giù di lì, e un amico appunto di Mike a una stazione di benzina stava ascoltando l'album e ha detto però è venuto fuori bene l'album Abominations, e ha detto ah beh hai anche hai avuto anche una bella copia, insomma, sì, è uscita sotto E-Rake. Quindi praticamente lui, Mike, che era sotto la E-Rake all'epoca, non era a conoscenza del fatto che fosse uscito, ed effettivamente è stata una cosa fatta, tra virgolette, in fretta e furia, perché non ci sono info sulla band nel libretto, non è stata usata la copertina che si pensava di utilizzare all'epoca, non ci sono foto di loro, quindi non c'è niente alla fine. Quindi sì, è stata una storia molto, molto divertente.
Ok, allora ragazzi, la domanda di Howard e di Agamante poi prendiamo su una seconda parte, perché chiediamo appunto prima di finire la video intervista se appunto Mike vorrà fare una seconda parte per il Calice Nero, una video interview, perché sarebbe un onore, perché c'è tanto ancora da dire, quindi Adime preparati perché c'è altro da dire su una seconda parte, ci sarà tanto a divertirsi. Allora, come domanda finale ne faccio due in una, nel senso che Mike, prima di tutto, qual è la bevanda perfetta per descrivere il tuo passato, i tuoi primi passi verso i Morbid Angel? Una bevanda alcolica, una bevanda estremamente alticcia, come vediamo appunto sul calice, sulla testa appunto di Adimer, e allo stesso tempo sui Nocturnus. Ma ha anche un'altra domanda in chiusura. Mike, se saresti un killer, quale killer saresti per far sì che la tua musica rimanga impiantata verso le vittime?
Okay, so now we're closing up with the latest two questions. I will go with the first one, and then I will go for the typical Il Calice Nero question. That is the closing one. The first question is: if you were a serial killer, what music would you use that will get stuck inside of the victim's body? So to the police officer listening to this question, this is a joke.
So I'm kind of confused on what. So
if you were to kill someone with one of your songs, what song would you pick that gets stabbed into the?
I'd probably have to say "Destroying the Manger." That's it's kind of like, you know, a song about destruction anyway, you know, so it's probably something like that, you know, probably one of the older Nocturne songs.
Can you repeat the title, because yeah, you cut out for like a split second? And
okay, I would probably say "Destroying the Manger."
Ok. Ok. Ok, allora come canzone da serial killer sarebbe appunto Madonna, Destroying the Major, quindi che parla proprio di distruzione e molto probabilmente appunto sarebbe quella che rispecchia anche il mood di tutto quanto. And now is the typical Il Calice Nero question. So as you can see over here, you have a chalice, and you need to pour some alcoholic beverage in that chalice that has the ability to describe your music in Morbid Angel and in Nocturnus AD. What would be your drink of choice to do that? That's able to actually numb you out and give you a punch in the stomach and whatever.
Well, I'd probably have to say, you know, the real old school wormwood absinthe.
Okay.
That would be, you know, that the real absinthe, not what they sell today, but, you know, the way it was made, you know, back in the
one with the
1700s.
sugar.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, they still do make a wormwood type of absinthe here and there, but it's still not exactly, you know, the way it was, to where it was almost like a hallucinogenic drink.
Ok. Allora, gli ho chiesto appunto della bevanda, ha detto che sicuramente sarebbe assenzio, ma non quello che vendono adesso, che sì, magari qualcosa trovi, eccetera, eccetera, ma quello che veniva fatto all'epoca. Quindi quella sorta di bevanda allucinogena che tende a appunto a mandarti fuori di testa.
Ok, come... Ah, scusami.
No, gli dico appunto la questione, quella che dicevi prima della seconda parte della... So, since we have like many questions, it's already pretty late. We would love to have you here for another interview with you, if you're
Sure.
up for it, so that we can keep going.
A little late because we had trouble getting my phone to work with the StreamYard thing. So I mean, yeah, sure. If you guys want to do another one, that's fine with me. I thought
Okay.
the questions that you guys asked were really good, and I mean, the way they were brought out, you know, you asked me questions that, you know, in all the years I've done interviews, I haven't been asked before. So to me, that's a great thing, because when people just ask you the same questions over and over, and you've said the same answers, you know, 100 times or more, it's like, okay, here, you know, but I really like the creative questions you guys came up with. And to me,
thanks a lot.
You know, getting to answer things like that after, you know, doing, you know, hundreds of interviews, you know, over all the years, it's really refreshing and nice to have, you know, a different type of interview, you know. So yeah, if you guys want to have me back, I'm always good with that.
Thanks a lot. Seriously, it's an honor for us to actually be here with you, and yeah, for sure. I mean, Cattivo Maestro will surely get back to you as soon as
very honor
as we're done, and we can try to figure out something for another interview. So thanks again, and
Sure.
I will tell El Maestro. Okay,
like I said, the new album is finished, as far as the recording part. And so by the time if we do another interview, it'll be mixed and everything by then, and you know, maybe one of the tracks will already be out, or you know, the album will almost be out. It should be out before the end of the year, hopefully. So you know, we could do another interview, and then you'll have that, you know, as well, to add into the whole mix of everything. So I think that would be a great idea.
Ok, abbiamo novità in casa Nocturnus AD. Ha detto che appunto lui è sicuramente d'accordo nel fare una seconda parte. Ha detto che comunque anche dal punto di vista di domande che gli sono state poste, appunto non gli erano mai state poste prima, che in centinaia e centinaia di interviste non ha mai ricevuto domande del genere. E ha detto appunto, per quanto riguarda Nocturnus AD, prossimo album finito, quindi per il tempo della prossima intervista sarà mixato, avrà passato la fase di mastering e forse sarà in fase di uscita in quel periodo, quindi parliamo di verso fine anno, quindi appunto ci sono novità bollenti. E niente, a te la parola.
Niente, Mike, grazie mille di cuore di questa intervista. Ti auguro a te il meglio di una finish di guarigione, appunto, perché appunto non è stato benissimo per un'influenza, appunto, il nostro caro Mike. Quindi ti auguro veramente un in bocca al lupo per la vita personale, per tutto, e per la tua arte. E veramente grazie ancora di cuore per questa intervista, perché per noi è stato un onore incredibile, appunto, come dice Howard Allen, infatti dice appunto thanks Mike, veramente grazie di cuore, veramente grazie di cuore, e per noi è un onore immenso averti nella seconda parte di video intervista.
Okay, so he basically said, as I said, that it has been an honor for us to have you here. So it's more than an honor to have you here again, as I said. Also, thanks for the replies that you gave to us, and even people in the comment section is like thanking you for being into this and for sharing stories about your past life sounds bad. Best experiences within your musical career. And they even say, like, regarding the release of the the Abominations, they said even like hilarious answer to an excellent question. So they're more than glad to have you here as well. So thanks again, Mike, and we will surely catch up in
thank you guys for having me on. It's been, like I said, it's been an awesome interview.
Welcome.
And I'm more than happy to come back.
For sure. Thank you. So thanks again,
Bye,
Mike, and see ya.
All right. Have a good day or good night.
Bye, Mike. Ok, allora, ok, perfetto. Sì, Mike, sto chiamando anche te, Mike Adimer. L'ultima traduzioncina e poi appunto congediamo i tutti.
Scusa, mi sono perso un attimo.
Ok, perfetto.
Scusa, ripeti cosa hai detto? Mi sono andato in
Ho
blackout
detto
un
l'ultima
attimo.
traduzione, le ultime parole da tradurre famose, appunto che ha detto
Sì.
Mike.
Niente, ha detto appunto che scusa, sono finito.
No, ci mancherebbe altro.
No, ha detto che
Scusami
appunto
te se ho prolungato la video intervista.
Ha detto che appunto si è divertito un sacco, appunto. Comunque ringrazio anche tutti quelli che sono stati presenti e che appunto anche le domande che gli abbiamo fatto sono state di alto livello, quindi detto che sarà più che contento di essere con noi nella seconda parte, e appunto ci augura buona serata a noi e a tutti quelli che sono rimasti a guardare la diretta fino ad ora.
Perfetto, allora grazie Adimer, veramente grazie di cuore per questa intervista.
Grazie a te.
Che appunto è un onore sempre appunto collaborare con te. Niente ragazzi, noi ci vediamo direttamente martedì con la Black Widow Records, appunto la quarta parte, video recensioni. Niente ragazzi, questo è tutto, il grande spettacolo non si ferma mai, il sacro codice 000, la morte vi renderà liberi. Au revoir.